Hello guys, good morning. Myself Monica, lecturer in Rama College of Nursing, Kanpur. Today we are going to discuss about peptic ulcer. So peptic ulcer. So it means ulcer means a open or a sore, a hole that can be occurred in the esophagus, stomach, duodenum and other parts of a gastrointestinal system. So this is the introduction regarding of peptic ulcer. So today we are going to discuss regarding completely about peptic ulcer. So anatomy and physiology of peptic ulcer. So anatomy is nothing but from mouth to the anus. So from mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, then the duodenum, the pylorus, then the small intestine, large intestine and continues with the colon and the rectum and anus. So physiology is nothing but we are having three aspects in physiology. First one is breakdown of food articles. Which means digestion, and second one is digestion and third one is elimination. So when you eat the food, that food enters into the stomach and breaks down and it enters to the duodenum, which the nutrients or the proteins whichever is needed, that is distributed to the whole body, and it goes to the large intestine for the elimination pattern in the GI system. So this is what physiology of a GI system. So moving to a definition. So as I told, peptic ulcer is an open sore or a hole which will be occurring in the stomach and the duodenum because of excessive production of gastric acid. So excessive production of gastric acid, that is HCl, hydrochloric acid, and we have the other gastric acid like pepsin. So the pepsin and the hydrochloric acids are both the acids which will be occurring damage or the ulcer formation in the stomach or the duodenum, we are calling in the esophagus also we are calling as a peptic ulcer. This is what definition of a peptic ulcer. Moving to our types of a peptic ulcer. So there are two types of peptic ulcer here, mainly acute and chronic. So acute means what? It is a short term period, like it takes as weeks or like days, we are calling in a short term period only it gets a cure, that is what a acute period. Now chronic period, it takes months and it not cure so fast and the ulcer may last for several times, that is what a chronic period. So in the acute, again we have different two types, that is Cushing ulcer and curling ulcer. So Cushing ulcers is a deep ulcers which will be occurring in the esophagus, stomach or the duodenum due to any excessive gastric production or due to any cranial injuries. Due to any injuries, due to any surgeries, this will be occurring, that is what Cushing's ulcers. So then is curling ulcer. Curling ulcer is occurred due to the tumors which will be occurring in the GI system that affects and damages the layers of the mucosa of the stomach and the duodenum, we are calling as a curling ulcer. So in acute ulcer we are having of two types, that is Cushing ulcer and curling ulcer. So in the Cushing ulcer, this is a deep ulcers which will be occurring of excessive gastric production and it occurs in the intracranial surgeries, and the curling ulcer mainly it occurs due to the tumors only. Now in chronic ulcer we have gastric ulcer and we have esophageal ulcer, then duodenal ulcer, then you have bleeding ulcer and refractory ulcer. So here acute ulcer we have seen already, Cushing and curling ulcers is there. Here in a chronic, so chronic it means it lasts for so many months or it will take longer period for reduction of a ulcer. So that is what gastric ulcer, esophageal ulcer, duodenal ulcer and bleeding ulcer and refractory ulcers are the types which will be included in the chronic ulcer. So now gastric ulcer, as I told, the gastric secretions are increasing here, like the HCl or the pepsin is increasing. Due to this there is a occurrence of a ulcer in the stomach we are calling as gastric ulcer. Then is esophageal ulcer. So in the name itself it is telling as esophageal. So in the esophagus it is occurring due to GERD, like gastroesophageal reflux disease. Because of this disease condition, there is a occurrence of the ulcer in the esophagus. Then is duodenal. So in the name itself it is telling as duodenum. So it is a entrance of a small intestine. It is an entrance of small intestine. So the entrance of small intestine, you can see here, this is what a duodenum. So this duodenum is occurring damage because of this gastric juices are higher and it produces excessive mucous layer damage, so that the duodenal ulcer is formed in the peptic ulcer. This is one of a type in chronic ulcer. Then is bleeding ulcer. So fourth one is bleeding ulcer. As the name it tells us, bleeding is nothing but if the ulcer is leading to a bleeding, if the ulcer is causing a bleeding and it is not it is not taking a more months, we are calling as a bleeding ulcer. So bleeding ulcer is complicated case where the patient will have severe like melena, hematemesis occurring in the patient when the bleeding occurs to the patient. Then is refractory ulcer. So refractory is nothing but the patient ulcer will not heal for, so refractory ulcer is nothing but it will not heal for several months it will take, and the surgery may form in the refractory ulcer. So these are some of the types which will be occurring in the peptic ulcer. So in a peptic ulcer we are having two types majorly, acute and chronic. So in the name itself, acute is a long short term period, we are calling as a acute. So in this again you have a Cushing ulcer and curling ulcer. Cushing ulcer is occurring as a deep ulcer which will be causing complete damage to the tissue, we are calling as a Cushing ulcer, and because of excessive production of gastric juices, and in examples like in cranial surgeries or any major surgeries, this Cushing ulcer may occur. That is curling ulcer, the tumors, mainly the tumors causes the curling ulcers in the GI system. Then we have a chronic. So chronic is nothing but a long term period which will take months to recover the patient. So here we are having different types, that is gastric ulcer, esophageal ulcer, duodenal ulcer, bleeding ulcer and refractory ulcer. So in the gastric ulcer, in the name itself, it will be occurring within the stomach due to excessive production of HCl and pepsin. So esophageal ulcer, so in the name itself it is telling us esophageal. So it is occurring in the esophagus where it get damage of the mucosal layer of esophagus. So the duodenal ulcer is nothing but it occurs in the duodenum, where the duodenum starts from the part of entrance of a small intestine where the ulcer is formed and there is a damage to the duodenum. Then is bleeding ulcer. So here when the ulcer is more and the ulcer is leading to a bleeding, we are calling as a bleeding ulcer. This is a complicated case where the patient may have melena and the hematemesis in the patient. Then is refractory ulcer which not be healed for many months, we are calling as a refractory ulcer. So these are some of the types which will be occurred in the peptic ulcer. Moving to our etiology. So here the etiology mainly we know that the patient is having a pepsin and the hydrochloric acid. So here etiology. So mainly the etiology is, first one is hydrochloric acid. So this is a main acid which will be occurring damage to the stomach of or esophagus or duodenum because excessive production of. Then is pepsin. This is one of a acid which will be production in a stomach. So then we have H. pylori bacteria. So H. pylori bacteria is nothing but this is caused due to the bacteria, due to like fecal, like oral or fecal matter which is introduced into the stomach because of through not washing your hands or person to person changes of hands, that will be infected to the patient. So this H. pylori bacteria is a main cause in the peptic ulcer. Then we have stress. Because of stress, other causes like stress, lifestyle modification like smoking, alcoholism or the patient is having obesity, or the patient is taking excessive spicy foods, or the patient is taking any other which is causing a ulcer, we are calling as a other causes. These are main causes which will be occurring in a patient with a peptic ulcer. Moving to our pathophysiology, as here we have seen esophagus, duodenum and the stomach is occurring of a ulcer. So mainly the duodenum is a normal ulcer which will be occur in every patient, so we will see pathophysiology of duodenum. Pathophysiology of duodenal ulcer. So due to etiological factors. So etiological factors we are having like H. pylori bacteria. So we are taking H. pylori bacteria. So here this H. pylori bacteria will enters through where? Through the mucosal layer. So it enters to the mouth and it enters to the mucosal layer, which causes damage in the mucosal layer. So this mucosal layer, what it does now? This mucosal layer is getting damaged because of excessive production of bacteria. So this bacteria and acid will get combined and there is a release of urease. So this release of urease, so urease is nothing but urea will convert the toxin ammonia. So this will release ammonia. This is a toxin production. So this toxin production will increases acid production in the intestine or the duodenum. So release of urease. So when the release of urease occur, there is a like increased production of gastric acid like HCl or pepsin. So when it is getting increased, so there is a complete damage or necrotized tissue occur here. So when there is necrotized tissue, automatically there will be a damage of or blood circulation diminishes. So blood circulation is getting diminishes here. When the blood circulation is getting diminishes, there is a chance of occurrence of hypoxia in the duodenum. So when the duodenum is getting lack of oxygen, this may leads to ulcer. This may leads to ulcer. That is a duodenal ulcer. So due to etiological factors, H. pylori bacteria. So this H. pylori bacteria is occurs through the what? Fecal oral matter. Okay. Like fecal oral matter is nothing through the person to person. If a patient is going for the washroom and they are not cleaning their hands properly, so this will infect the patient and it goes to the mouth. Through the bacteria is entering to the mouth, it affects the mucosal layer. So when it affects to the mucosal layer in the esophagus, it enters to the stomach and it enters to the duodenum and damages the mucosal layer, which causes release of urease. So this urease is converting urea into ammonia. Ammonia is a very toxin substance which will be damaging of a mucosal layer. This toxin should not be there in the stomach, but the toxin is getting released more. So what happens here? There is an increased production of HCl and pepsin. This pepsin and toxin is getting converted and they are getting mixed. So there will be a damage of or a necrotized tissue will occur to the patient. So there will be a blood circulation will be diminishes here. And hypoxia will be occurring in the duodenum where there is no circulation properly. It leads to the ulcer. So this is what pathophysiology which is common in the patient with the duodenum. Moving to our next is clinical manifestations. As we told, as we have discussed, normally if we see the patient is having like ulcer, they'll have the pain, then the patient will have a abdominal discomfort and the patient will have a disturbances in the abdomen. Clinical manifestations. So here the clinical manifestations, as we know, from the esophagus and the duodenum, the part is getting affected. So from the esophagus, so the patient may have GERD, like the patient may have gastroesophageal reflux disease, like when the patient is eating, the food will be pushed back, we are calling as GERD. Then the patient will have nausea, the patient will have vomitings. As I told, the patient will have melena. Melena is a dark colored stool. Because of a bleeding, the melena will occur. Then is hematemesis. Hematemesis is nothing but a blood in vomiting, or vomiting blood will call. Blood in vomiting. Hematemesis will occur. Abdominal discomfort will occur, and abdominal pain. So these all will be a common clinical manifestations in the patient with the peptic ulcer. So moving to our next is diagnostic evaluations. So what can be a diagnostic evaluation? So normally we know history collection and physical examination is done in every disease condition. So history collection and physical examination. So first one is history collection. Diagnostic tests. So first one is history collection. So previously we'll ask regarding of patient is using any H2 proton inhibitors, or the patient is using any drugs, or the patient is taking any spicy foods, or the patient is increase of taking of any gastric juicer like cocaine or some other drugs will be taken for the patient. You will be observing in a history collection. Moving to a physical examination. So as we told, the patient is having discomfort, the patient is having like abdominal distension, or the patient is having melena, hematemesis. We will be observing the patient is pallor or not, the patient is anemic or not. We will be observing in the physical examination. Then moving to a third one is USG, is nothing but ultrasonography. So this is done in order to see the abdomen is proper or not. Then we will see the endoscopy. So endoscopy, in order to visualize from the mouth to the anus, in order to visualize the ulcers from the esophagus to anus, this endoscopy is done in a patient with peptic ulcer. Then is urea breath test. So urea breath test is nothing but you will give one balloon to the patient which is contents of urea, that will be blown to the patient, so that we will be knowing that the patient is able to breathe through that or not. We will be observing through the urea breath test. Then is we have esophagogastroduodenoscopy. So we have esophagogastroduodenoscopy. Esophago, the esophagus, the stomach and the duodenum. So three parts will be visualized through this scopy in order to know the ulcer is like bleeding ulcer or chronic ulcer or the gastric ulcer. Which ulcer is formed, that will be observed into the esophagogastroduodenoscopy. So moving to our management. So these are some of our diagnostic tests which will be done under peptic ulcer. Then moving to our management. So as we know, management, in a management we have three, like a medical, surgical and a nursing. Medical, surgical and a nursing. So in medical again we have pharmacological and non-pharmacological. So, pharmacological and non-pharmacological. Pharmacological is nothing but the patient who is taking a drugs we are calling as pharmacological, and non-pharmacological is nothing but like a stress reduction or the smoking, quit of smoking or the quit of alcoholism exercise we will give to the patient other than the drugs we are calling as non-pharmacological. Surgical is nothing but the surgeries which will be done under peptic ulcer we are calling as a surgical. Then the nursing care which will be provided to the patient by the nurse we are calling as nursing care. Okay, then here medical. So first we will see the pharmacological management. So as I told, pharmacological management is a drugs. So first one is H2 inhibitors. So H2 inhibitors or H2 receptor antagonist. So here we will see first one is tab-ranitidine, tab-famotidine. So these two drugs are giving for ulcer healing. or reduction of gastric juices, we are giving tab ranitidine or tab famotidine. So ranitidine you are give for 20 mg and famotidine also will be given for 20 mg. So these two drugs mainly ranitidine you will be giving for 150 mg and famotidine will be given for 20 mg, which will be given for the patient in order to reduce the ulcer. Then second one is proton pump inhibitors. Proton pump inhibitors. So this proton pump inhibitors we are giving as omeprazole and pantoprazole. So pantoprazole can be given IV or oral. So IV if you are giving 40 mg can be given to the patient, or if the patient is taking orally, we will give 20 mg to the patient orally. Then here omeprazole also 20 mg can be given to the patient in order to reduce of a ulcer or the increased production of, like I told you, HCl and pepsin is a major cause here, acid is production. So that to reduce of a production of acid, you are giving of omeprazole or pantoprazole. So these two drugs are mainly concentrating on a patient who are having this peptic ulcer. Moving to our next is antibiotics. So antibiotics is given like clarithromycin, because as I told, H. pylori is a major cause here of a bacteria. So that you are giving of antibiotics like clarithromycin, then amoxicillin and azithromycin. So these three drugs are major for reduction of H. pylori bacteria. So this clarithromycin is 500 mg we will give, as amoxicillin also 500 mg. Then azithromycin, according to the patient condition, you will give 250 mg or 500 mg according to the patient condition, whether the patient is in acute stage or chronic stage, that will be mentioning here. Due to that only you will provide the antibiotics to the patient. So here these are the some of a pharmacological treatment that will be given to the patient, like we are giving proton pump inhibitors, H2 receptors, then we are giving antibiotics in order to reduce the ulcer, in order to reduce excessive production of gastric juices, and in order to reduce of H. pylori bacteria. Then moving to our next is non-pharmacological management. So here non-pharmacological management, as I told you, pharmacological is for drugs mainly, as we have discussed already. Now in non-pharmacological, we have to see the patient is quit for smoking, then stress reduction, then for exercise like abdominal passive exercise, then for rest and sleep. So here non-pharmacological management we are seeing for quit smoking, stress reduction, exercises and alcoholism. So smoking and alcoholism is reduction for the patient in order to reduce the complications of the patient. Then we have stress is also one of a cause for the peptic ulcer, so that you are giving for stress reduction. Then exercise like abdominal exercises in order to reduction of like a pain, discomfort to the patient. Moving to a surgical management, we are having here like vagotomy. So by name itself it is telling as vagotomy. So the vagus nerve is getting severed here. So here the vagus nerve is there in the stomach. This vagus nerve is getting ligated, or it is getting sutured, or it is getting removed in order to reduce the severity of ulceration. Then that is vagotomy. Then is pyloroplasty. So pyloroplasty, as we know, the junction of the pylorus, so they may be open vertically or longitudinally in order to relax the muscles. So that they are doing of pyloroplasty. And third one we are having Billroth 1 and Billroth 2. So Billroth 1 is a gastroduodenostomy. Then gastrojejunostomy. So gastroduodenostomy and gastrojejunostomy. So gastroduodenostomy is nothing but the half of a part. Now gastroduodenostomy, the gastric part, the antrum part is there. The antrum part is removed and it is joined with the duodenum. The stomach is joined with the duodenum. We are calling as, so this is a duodenum. and the stomach. So here the antrum part is removed, that is nothing but a gastroduodenostomy. Then is gastrojejunostomy is nothing but, so the gastro from the antrum to the duodenum, the part is removed and is connected with the jejunum. So the jejunum, already I have told you, this is a major part of the jejunum. The jejunum is connected to the stomach, we are calling as a gastrojejunostomy. So this is under a surgical management. Moving to a nursing management. So the nursing management, as we know, the assessment, diagnosis and the interventions is common in every disease condition. So assessment mainly will observe for the patient the complications, how the patient is having occurrence of a ulcer, or the patient is having excessive production like spicy foods he is going to eat, how much he is able to eat, or he is having GERD, like that will be observing in the nursing care. So this is what management which will be occurring in the peptic ulcer. Moving to a complications, there are three main complications are there, like bleeding. Already I have told you, bleeding is a main complication which will be occurring to the patient. It leads to anemic and shock to the patient in a peptic ulcer. And second one is perforation. So perforation is nothing but when the outward portion of the organ, so the organ will be outward portion, so that the ulcer will be leads to the other parts of the body also, other parts of the abdominal area, so that we are calling it as a perforation. So these are some of the complications which will be occurring in the peptic ulcer. Thank you.